10 years ago, a little movie was released about the journey and love of two royal sisters who were once close, but due to things beyond their control had to grow up separated from each other. The older one, Elsa, was born with magical ice powers. Powers she tried to conceal after accidentally hurting her sister when they were kids. The younger sister, Anna, on the other hand, was born with ADHD. No, sorry, I just had to. And after Elsa becomes queen, all these pent-up emotions inevitably burst out of her in the form of a powerful ice attack at her coronation party. She then flees the scene into the mountains, unaware of the eternal winter that suddenly started engulfing the entire kingdom. After all, her powers are directly tied to her emotions. And oh boy is she in need of therapy! Now it is up to Anna to find her sister and bring back the sun to the kingdom of Arendelle. On her journey, she meets a variety of characters, some of them offering their help, while others try to kill her. Will Anna and Elsa be able to rekindle their sisterly bond? Will they be able to bring back summer? Well, to me, this sounds like a solid premise for a movie. And most of you guys watching know, the movie I'm describing was called Frozen. After this film released back in November of 2013, it made like $1 bajillion and was basically inescapable for a very long time. I am 100% convinced that even today, you could go into any dollar store and buy enough Frozen-themed products to not only cover all of your basic needs, but also live quite the comfortable life, with even some luxury items at your disposal.
Is there anything that's caught your eye that you thought, oh, that's unusual?
Well,
there's an Olaf potty training toilet seat. Oh, that's pretty unusual.
Frozen literally has had the world in a chokehold for a decade now. Not only when it comes to merchandise, but also the animation industry, as well as this very website, YouTube. And today, that's exactly what I want to talk about in this little video of mine. So, grab your ice skates, winter clothes, as well as your very own personal sleigh that comes equipped with a weirdly dog-like reindeer, as we ride on top of the avalanche that is Frozen, and talk about the impact this movie had on the world.
Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
And if you were wondering, no, I will not stop with the ice jokes. In fact, this was only the beginning. I will not let it go.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks! I was frozen today!
Frozen was the highest-grossing animated movie of all time during its reign in the mid-2010s, making $1.3 billion at the box office. This record would only be broken by its sequel that came out 6 years later. That doesn't count. I said highest-grossing movie, not Crimes Against Humanity. And for some reason, the world was pretty much engulfed in a nationwide hype surrounding the film and especially the franchise that was Frozen. Now, the songs definitely played a huge part in that. These earworms were written by married couple Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez. You can thank these two for your eardrums being constantly overloaded with countless renditions of Let It Go back in 2014. Be it kids singing the songs, people bringing up Frozen on TV or on the internet, countless YouTube covers of Let It Go, or heck, even if you were just trying to mind your own business going to the grocery store, Frozen was omnipresent. Every other day another version of Elsa's power ballad would go viral and make this movie even more inescapable. I've never seen anything more straight in my whole entire life. But Let It Go wasn't the only piece of music that was popular. The other songs were just as catchy and had their fair share of virality too. Personally, Brizzy Voice's version of Do You Wanna Build a Snowman was when I first grew curious about the movie. There was just this deep sadness layered throughout the song, and I wanted to find out for myself what was going on with these characters. To me, something about this movie felt special, if that makes any sense. And I remember feeling this way even before I had seen Frozen. I just wanted to know the context behind that scene, and one song cover was all it took to pique my interest.
I'm sure musicals aren't really your thing, but...
Was it like Frozen? Because that was very sad.
Yeah, it's a bit like Frozen.
Now, Frozen is set in the beautiful country of Norway, a country I was lucky enough to visit twice in my life. I fell in love especially with Norway's breathtaking landscape, culture, as well as the architecture. With that being said, it was no wonder that the people working on Frozen used Norway as an inspiration for the film's setting. Now, following the release of the film, local tourism allegedly exploded, and the small Scandinavian country was overrun by countless Disney adults. To quote the New Zealand Herald, after its release, the film was attributed to a massive 20% rise in foreign visitor numbers to the country. Those numbers are continuing to climb, with Norway recording a growth in numbers of 7.5% in 2015. The Lofoten archipelago public's facilities are being exhausted, with problems plaguing local waste disposal, public toilets, and car parking. Furthermore, the article states that handling these masses of tourists has proven to be quite challenging for the locals. And while yes, the areas that have been overrun, primarily the Lofoten Islands as well as Bergen, are well-established tourist attractions, they were doing just fine before the movie was even released. They don't really need more tourists. Especially not to that capacity. 10 years later, things have calmed down compared to how it was after the initial boom flooded Norway. And while the number of tourists that visit Norway continues to grow almost every year, it is a lot more of a gradual development compared to how things were a decade ago. Now, there are various articles talking about how the country was being overrun by Frozen fans after the movie was released. However, if you actually take a look at the number of tourists that visited the country each year, there weren't actually that many more compared to the previous years. Definitely not as many as news sites made it seem. Nevertheless, a spokesperson for Visit Norway said in an interview in mid-2014 that hotel and tour bookings for the first quarter of the year had been up by 40% due to the movie's popularity. So I guess Frozen must have had some impact on Scandinavian tourism. Personally, I would really love to visit Norway again sometime in the future. Not only because of Frozen, but because I really love the local nature as well as the culture. But certainly not the prices. Yikes. Now I remember this one story that I read back in the day, where this one guy asked for advice on a Japanese marriage forum. The TLDR basically was that the wife wanted to divorce him because he didn't enjoy the movie Frozen as much as she did, and just called it okay, and that he, quote, didn't really care for it personally. Apparently, okay wasn't good enough for his soon-to-be ex-wife, as she had become obsessed with the movie and had also seen it countless times at the cinema. Now, the woman reportedly seemed to be extremely disappointed with the husband's indifference towards such an incredible masterpiece. To quote The Guardian, perhaps inspired by the self-empowerment message in the film's central anthem, Let It Go, the woman then said, "If you can't understand what makes this movie great, there's something wrong with you as a human being," before saying that she wanted a divorce. He says she now won't talk to him directly, but mediates through their parents. Now, whether or not this was the sole reason the woman filed for divorce, or if there was more to it behind the scenes remains a mystery. And I wouldn't blame you for thinking that one of the two wasn't completely honest when reading this post. But personally, I do think that the guy not liking Frozen could be reason enough for the woman to file for a divorce. You have to keep in mind that while the movie was a huge success worldwide, Japan seemed to catch an especially severe case of Frozen fever back in 2014. It became the third highest grossing movie to ever release in the country, only being topped by Spirited Away and Titanic. And it remained in the top 3 all the way up to 2020, when the Demon Slayer Mugen Train movie eventually took the top spot, pushing Frozen down to number 4. Despite that, even to this day, Japan's obsession with Frozen sure is something else, and is a sight to behold. I don't think we have ever experienced anything similar to the impact Frozen had on YouTube. You just had to be there. Like, just remember the sheer number of Let It Go covers uploaded in late 2013 and 2014. Must have been millions. The only thing that I can think of that came close to that was the internet's obsession with another Disney film, Encanto. The songs from that movie also had the world in a chokehold when the film came out, and also got their fair share of fan covers and different versions. But all the attention Encanto got was nothing compared to the juggernaut that was Frozen. Now, I do think Disney did something very clever when they saw how much love their newest movie was getting when it released. You see, The mouse had been quite notorious for its strict protection of a company's intellectual property. Fair use wasn't really in their vocabulary back then, and they were not joking when it came to copyright infringement, similar to the reputation Nintendo has even today. But things changed when people began making tributes, parodies, fanworks, and of course covers and fan songs for Frozen, and uploading them on various websites. And to everyone's surprise, Disney didn't seem to take issue with their property being used in that way. They decided to let it slide, as all these fanworks made the movie reach an even wider audience, and made even more people want to check out this one snow movie they are seeing everywhere. It was basically free marketing. This has led to Disney being a bit more lenient with their IPs, continuing this trend all the way up until today. This practice has become just another way to spread the word about the newest must-see movie from the studio. And other companies, except maybe Nintendo, seem to have also embraced this tactic, be it game developers letting Let's Players do their thing,
Was that the bite of 87?
or studios allowing covers of popular movie songs. All in all, I do think companies tolerating and even encouraging fan-made content using their IPs is a great thing, and definitely was an intelligent move by Disney. One that boosted Frozen's success even more, and helped this movie gain even more of a reputation. I sure am glad this was the only big thing featuring Elsa that ever happened on YouTube. Okay, I guess I'll have to somewhat address the elephant in the room. Now I am planning on covering the whole Elsagate situation in a separate video sometime in the future, so keep an eye out for that. Anyways, let's continue. Okay, but why do people resonate with this film? Is there something special about it that differentiates Frozen from the other movies of that time? Well, of course the soundtrack played a significant role in the success of the movie. After being absent for almost a decade, Disney decided to go back on an all-reliable of theirs. The oh-so-trusty Broadway musical formula. The last time we had seen a classic Disney musical with a fantasy setting was back in the 90s. What differentiates the revival era from these 90s flicks, however, was, of course, that almost all of these films switched to being fully CG animated. Furthermore, movies such as Encanto, Moana, and yes, of course Frozen, focused more on the characters' inner journeys, as well as their path of self-discovery. But aside from that, Frozen also features endearing characters, incredible animation, and a solid story, as well as an interesting premise. People relate to the movie's depictions of family, mental health, journeys of self-discovery, as well as love. And a lot of fans saw themselves in Anna, Elsa, Hans, Kristoff, or even Olaf. I do think the timing of Frozen's release was just perfect, and made sure the movie swept the world with its success. It really captured the zeitgeist of the early 2010s. Frozen meant a lot, especially to kids, teens, and adults during, say, the peak Tumblr era. A time where melancholy was romanticized a lot on the internet. Let me explain. The focus on characters' trauma, struggles, as well as emotions struck a chord with many viewers, and gave a voice to folks going through similar stuff. Frozen was a place of comfort, reassurance, and especially acceptance. To quote this article from the British Film Institute, "These stories have resonated strongly with modern audiences. So far, this is the most profitable of any period of Disney animation." Starting with the release of Tangled at the beginning of the decade, Disney had started releasing highly praised films again. The 2000s were known as the experimental era for the studio. And while their movies of that time period sure felt different from what we usually associate with the Disney brand, the box office numbers were often underwhelming. That's why starting in 2009 with The Princess and the Frog, Disney decided to go back to its roots and started adapting classic fairy tales again. But this time in 3D. Well, for the most part. The studio would release two last 2D animated movies, these being the aforementioned Princess and the Frog, as well as a 2011 Winnie the Pooh film nobody watched or even remembers. This new era for Disney movies is known as the Revival Era, and depending on who you ask, it is also the most recent period as of the release of this video. This is probably just because we don't really know what to call this current era of movies yet. I mean, you've got absolute banger movies like Encanto, but also films like Strange World and Raya. Like, I don't know, maybe something like the streaming era, for example? Now this might come as a surprise, but many of the tropes that we find annoying and overused were seen as a breath of fresh air back in the early 2010s. Be it the twist villain trope, the quirky, strong female protagonist who doesn't need a man, the adorable, quirky main character, and of course, having the one-word adjective movie title, weren't seen as overused back in the day. And although it became real old real quick, we did actually enjoy most of these shticks after they were first introduced. And that's gonna be it for this video. Special thanks to MCT and Lesmes for helping me with the script on this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye!